Hi there, it's me, Teacher Mike from Phuket Pals. I hope you're all okay. This is the first video in a series of GED Social Studies videos I'm going to put together for you. We get a lot of requests in actually for GED Social Studies videos. People asking what types of questions there are, what the different skills that I need, and many other things as well. So hopefully this series can help you out. And yeah, let's get stuck in then. What we're going to look at first is basically what the GED Social Studies test is all about. Okay, it's going to measure your knowledge of key social studies topics and how well you are able to analyze and interpret documents and other social studies information. Okay, so that means you're going to be interpreting graphs, you're going to be interpreting tables, you're going to be reading short passages, long passages, and often you have to make comparisons between these tables and graphs and the bits of text that you're reading as well. You might have to look at historical photographs, you might have to look at political cartoons, things like this. There's lots going on in this test actually, so it's very good to become familiar with what's in it. You've got just over an hour to complete the test, okay, and about half of the questions, but 50% or so, is US government and civics. So it's all about how the US government is made up, how it operates, the kind of strengths and weaknesses of the government, and how the voting system works, how laws are passed, and many other things as well. There's also US history in there. Now many students freak out, they go, I've never studied US history before. It doesn't matter, okay? As I say, this is not a test where you need to remember loads of historical dates and kings and queens and who chopped off whose head and who didn't. This is a test about skills. Okay, so it's very different to other social studies tests you'll have done before. It's not about rote learning. It's about close reading skills and critical thinking. Okay, it's about interpretation. It's about evaluation. So don't panic if you've never studied US history before or you know nothing about the US government structure or anything like that. Pretty much everything you need is inside the test itself. It's just your job is to pick it apart, pick the questions apart. Be able to read carefully enough, that includes the questions and the text, to answer the questions in a accurate and effective way. Okay, this also means becoming very familiar with different types of graphs and everything else that we talked about before. And there's a lot of academic vocab in this test, so you will have to become familiar with some big words in the social studies test. Okay, maybe. Well, we'll go into examples later, but you do need to kind of beef up your vocabulary for this test for sure. And there's also some economics in there, basic economics. Okay, and there's also some geography, known as Geography and the World. This is basically graph interpretation, map interpretation, things like this. Yeah, so there's kind of each of these four. These are called the content topics. Okay. And these have themes, okay? There are also themes that are attached to these. The themes are development of modern liberties and democracy, okay, and dynamic responses in societal systems. So you'll see that all of the core topic areas will kind of be focused within that on development of modern liberties and democracy. So there's a lot of talk about democracy and freedom, as in liberty, in this test. You wouldn't expect anything less from an American test, would you? But there you are. So it's very important that you read up on where the ideas of liberty, stroke freedom came from. You can do lots of reading around the subject for this, okay? Get on news websites, get on the BBC, get on The Guardian, get on any quality news website that you can, and search for things about liberty and freedom. You can even Google it, you know, so type in like BBC, where did freedom come from? BBC, liberty in politics, or something like this. And you can kind of read around each of these topics and build up your vocab, build up your reading skills, and that way it makes answering everything in this test a lot easier. Okay, the second one is dynamic responses in societal systems. Okay, and this is all about how society reacts to things or how things operate within society. Okay, and we'll look at that later. All right, so as we said before, in here you're looking at short passages, you're looking at maps, graphs, tables, some of the graphic presentations of social studies data. Okay, yeah, so what I want to focus on first then are the types of skills that you will need for the GED Social Studies test. So what skills do you have to put into action to get a good score in this? Well, you have to be able to draw conclusions from a text. Okay, this means you'll need to look at details supplied in a text and be able to use those details to make claims about its meaning. Okay, and you'll notice there's a lot of crossover here from the RLA test, the English test, and also the science test as well. Basically, if you can, there's so many of these skills that cross over. If you can read closely any text, this will help you loads in the RLA, the social studies, and in the science. This is not a test where you need lots of tricks or techniques. It's all about your skills. So the more you can sharpen those reading skills, and in particular your close reading skills, the better you're going to do. Now, what are close reading skills? Well, close reading skills are your ability to really focus on the text in front of you and do things like draw conclusions from it, take out the main idea from it, be able to pick out the writer's purpose, why he wrote the article, be able to infer things from the text itself. So there come some of the main close reading skills, and these are known as higher order thinking skills because they take you above just understanding a text. Okay, you're kind of playing with the information within the text, interpreting, evaluating, drawing inferences and conclusions, things like this. Okay, next you need to be able to identify the key features of a text. Okay, so again, like I just said before, its main idea, what are the main arguments in there, and the conclusions that the author has. Also, you need to be able to analyze events and ideas. Okay, so you might get two different documents and you have to analyze the ideas within them and draw some conclusions based on that. You have to maybe understand the relationship between the documents. Okay, perhaps one document is written by someone who wants a revolution within the country, and the other document is written by someone who's in government who wants to hold on to the status quo within the country. So you might have to analyze the language that makes them different and why you think that language made it different, or why certain language is used in one and not in the other, and it goes on and on and on. Okay, also things like cause and effect. Okay, so understanding cause and effect, so how one event might lead to another happening. Okay, yeah, that's important too. Also using context clues. Okay, so using words and phrases in the passage and charts you read on the test that you don't know. Okay, so it's kind of using context clues is, let's say you get a really difficult vocab word. Well, what you have to do is look at the other words in this sentence. Read around that word, the sentence before, the sentence after, and see if you can find any clues within the other words that might help you out, help you understand the big word the complex word that you don't understand. Again, this needs to be practiced a lot. It's a difficult skill to master. Also then, analyzing the author's purpose and influences on the author. I kind of touched on that earlier as well. Social studies texts always have a purpose. So your job as a student of social studies is to figure out why this article was written. Okay, was it written to make a political statement? Was it written to try and solve some kind of issue within society, some kind of grievance that someone had? Was it written to celebrate a certain victory or some kind of monumental event within a culture? What was the reason? Why did the writer write this? Okay, that's your job, to find that out. Yeah, sometimes the purpose is obvious, but sometimes the author attempts to hide the real purpose of the text. Your job is to find out why he wrote it. Okay. Also, you need to look at some of the claims that the author is making, and you need to think, are these claims factual, or are they based a little bit on his own experience and opinion? So therefore, are they full of bias, which is someone's someone's opinion coloring the facts, shall we say, of the document? Okay, so do they have a prejudice in favor of a certain position over another? Okay. So you have to, when you're reading a text, you should be thinking about who the author is, okay, where he comes from, and his historical significance, and how that might colour his opinion, or how he's presenting himself within this article. Next, you have to be able to distinguish facts from opinions. Okay, so is something factual or is it an opinion? It's simple enough. Or is someone's claim supported or unsupported? So in their document, they might make a claim about something. Do they then support that with evidence, or do they just leave it hanging in the air? You have to be able to distinguish that as well. Also, analyze and understand content from different sources. So using primary sources, so sources that were written at the time the event happened, or secondary sources, ideas about the event that were written after the fact, after the time. So primary sources are generally said to be more historically important and relevant because they're written at that time, but they can also be biased and unreliable as well. It depends who wrote them, basically. Secondary sources, these are meant to be more objective. Things like textbooks written after the time. But again, textbooks themselves also have historical inaccuracies and different things going on. So you have to think who wrote it, when they wrote it, why they wrote it, and could their background and personality and who they are, could that colour and shape in a certain way the facts, in inverted commas, that they're presenting. You have to be able to calculate the mean, the median, the mode, the range of a data set. Okay, now I know what you're thinking, this isn't a maths test, but you have to do some basic maths in the social studies test as well. It's easy stuff, it's really easy. So like the mean, finding out the average, and the range of a data set, many different things, okay? You'll see this used later on. Okay, mean, median, mode, range, and that's about it. Okay, so that's what the GED Social Studies test is, and there's some of the skills that you need to do well in it. Okay, so thanks for listening to this video. That's all from me, Teacher Mike. I'll see you in the next one. Okay, have a good day. Bye-bye.